She thought he was perfect, the charming white boy who made her heart race. But what she didn't know was that behind his smile lurked secrets, lies, betrayal, and danger that could destroy everything she loved. Her best friend, the one who's always had her back, knows the truth, but can she? Tonight, the story unfolds, love, lies, and shocking secrets that no one saw coming. Stay till the end. You won't believe what happens next. Hit like if you love suspense, subscribe for more thrilling stories, and let's dive in. Raven High buzzed with the chaos of a new semester. Students rushed through hallways, laughing and juggling textbooks, but Lila, a bold, artistic black girl, walked with calm confidence. Her dark eyes scanned the crowd like she already owned the place, her sketchbook clutched tightly under her arm. There was an energy about her, sharp, magnetic, unmissable. As she turned a corner, she collided with someone. Books tumbled, papers fluttered like confused birds. Lila froze, and when she looked up, there he was. Ethan, a white boy with sandy hair, perfectly styled, and a smile that seemed practiced yet disarmingly charming. His hand reached for hers to steady her, brushing against her skin. Lila felt a spark she couldn't name, thrilling, confusing, and a little dangerous. "Sorry, I wasn't looking," Lila said, bending to pick up the scattered papers. "No, my fault. I should have, paid more attention," Ethan replied, his voice smooth casual. His gaze lingered a beat too long, curious and calculating. From across the hall, Jay, Lila's black best friend since childhood, watched silently. He noticed everything. How Ethan's charm wrapped around Lila like a warm blanket, how he leaned just a little too close, how his smile seemed almost strategic. Jay's fist clenched, a warning echoing in his mind. Not everything that shines is gold. In the following days, Lila and Ethan seemed to magnetically collide at every corner. Classrooms, the cafeteria, library tables. Laughs, teasing banter, flirtatious glances. Lila's heart raced. For the first time, she felt seen, really seen, by someone who looked nothing like her, whose world seemed so far from hers, yet who drew her in like gravity. But Jay noticed cracks. Ethan disappeared at odd times, making private calls. Sometimes he looked at Lila in ways that felt too intense, almost predatory. "Jay, relax," Lila said one afternoon, waving off his warnings. "You don't understand him. He's different. He's nothing like anyone I've ever met." Jay didn't reply, only frowning. There was something off, too smooth, too perfect, too fast. His instincts screamed a warning. Watch her before it's too late. That night, Lila stared at her phone, scrolling through Ethan's messages. Playful, flirty, intimate. She felt like she discovered a world she didn't even know existed. A world so different from her own, white, polished, mysterious. And yet, the thrill of it made her heart race. Little did she know, Ethan carried secrets, hidden connections, half-truths, lies wrapped in charm. And someone was already watching. Someone close, someone who loved her enough to know danger when he saw it. The spark had started, but in its glow, shadows lurked. Shadows that could destroy everything Lila thought she knew about love, loyalty, and trust. And somewhere in the background, Ethan's smile hid a truth darker than anyone could guess. The days after that fateful hallway encounter blurred together for Lila. Every class, every lunch break seemed to pull her closer to Ethan, the white boy whose charm was impossible to ignore. They laughed together in the cafeteria, exchanged playful glances in the library, and sent texts that made her heart race at odd hours. There was something intoxicating about him, a mix of mystery and confidence that made the world feel lighter, brighter, and infinitely more thrilling. But while Lila was captivated, Jay watched from the sidelines, unease coiling in his chest like a tightening rope. He had grown up knowing Lila's heart, guarding it when needed, and something about Ethan didn't sit right. The boy's perfection seemed deliberate, almost calculated. Ethan smiled too easily, laughed too smoothly, and disappeared at odd times, only to return acting as though nothing had happened. One afternoon, the trio found themselves working on a group project. Lila and Ethan sat close, whispering and sketching ideas together. Jay's eyes never left Ethan, studying every move. When Ethan laughed at something Lila said, his hand brushed hers briefly. Lila's cheeks flushed, and Jay's stomach tightened. He could feel the chemistry radiating between them, and the danger hidden beneath Ethan's polished exterior. After class, Lila noticed Ethan slipping into the shadows of the hallway. Curious, she followed him silently, only to see him glance around nervously before picking up his phone and making a hushed call. She couldn't hear the conversation, but the tone, the urgency, sent a shiver down her spine. Ethan wasn't the carefree boy she thought he was. Later that evening, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number appeared. "You don't know the whole story about him. Be careful who you trust." Lila's fingers froze over the screen. She felt a cold knot in her stomach. Was it a warning? A prank? Her mind raced, but her heart betrayed her curiosity. Ethan had already embedded himself too deeply, and she couldn't resist checking his messages again. Playful, flirty, innocent, or so it seemed. Jay, sensing her distraction, appeared at her side the next day. "I saw him yesterday, Lila. He's hiding something, and it's not small," he said, his voice low but urgent. Lila shook her head, torn. "Jay, he's different. I can feel it. I trust him." "Trust." Jay's eyes narrowed. "You barely know him." "I've seen enough to know that charm can be dangerous. Some people hide their truth behind a smile." But Lila's heart wasn't listening. She was drawn to the thrill of the unknown, the pull of Ethan's magnetic presence, the excitement of something she'd never experienced before. And yet, a small voice in her mind whispered a warning, echoing Jay's fears. That night, she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Questions swirled. Who is Ethan, really? Why do I feel both safe and scared around him? And why can't I stop thinking about him? Somewhere in the shadows, Ethan smiled to himself, knowing he had her exactly where he wanted. And as Lila drifted into uneasy sleep, a storm of secrets, betrayals, and heartbreak was quietly beginning to take shape, one that would soon engulf everyone she cared about. The weeks passed, and the thrill of new romance between Lila and Ethan grew stronger. They were inseparable at school, laughing in the hallways, sharing secret glances across crowded classrooms, and exchanging texts that made her pulse race. To everyone else, it looked like a perfect story, a black girl and white boy falling for each other in a whirlwind of youthful love. But Jay saw the cracks forming in the foundation. He noticed Ethan's sudden disappearances, his guarded phone calls, and the way his charm could turn playful one moment and cold the next. He tried to warn Lila again, his voice serious this time. "Lila, listen to me," Jay said one afternoon, leaning close as they walked between classes. "Something's off. He's not telling you everything. I've been watching, and he's hiding a side you don't know about." Lila sighed, brushing off his concern with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Jay, stop. You're overthinking. I know him. I can feel it." But even as she said it, doubt began creeping into her mind. A mysterious text from an unknown number appeared that evening. "You're being played. Watch closely. He's not who he says he is." Her stomach churned. Lila stared at her phone, heart pounding. Could she really trust Ethan? Part of her wanted to confront him immediately. Another part wanted to ignore the warning, to cling to the warmth of the connection she felt. The next day, Lila saw Ethan at school, laughing with someone across the courtyard. Her breath caught. He wasn't just talking to a classmate. It was a girl she didn't recognize, one who smiled at him in a way that suggested familiarity beyond friendship. Lila's world tilted. Questions spiraled in her mind. Is this the girl behind the texts? Has he been lying to me all along? Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone. Before she could call him, Jay stepped beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. "I saw her yesterday, too," he said quietly. "And Lila, it's worse than we thought. He's been keeping secrets. Serious ones." Fear, anger, and heartbreak collided inside her. She wanted to scream, to confront Ethan, to demand the truth, but she also wanted to deny it. Part of her couldn't believe someone she trusted could betray her so completely. That night, unable to sleep, Lila replayed every interaction in her mind. The flirtatious glances, the whispered promises, the excitement of stolen moments. And now, each one felt like a lie. Meanwhile, Ethan leaned back in his room, unaware that his carefully constructed mask was starting to crumble. He had been counting on Lila's trust, her willingness to ignore the red flags. But Jay's interference threatened to expose everything. The tension was unbearable. Lila's heart ached, Jay's protective instincts flared, and the audience is left on edge. Will she confront Ethan? Will she uncover the truth before it's too late? The first crack in her love story had formed, and soon the entire facade would start to shatter, revealing secrets that could destroy friendships, trust, and hearts alike. The next week at Raven High felt like walking through a storm. Lila couldn't focus in class, couldn't concentrate on her art, and every glance at her phone made her heart thud nervously. Ethan, the white boy who had once seemed perfect, now felt like a stranger. Every smile he sent her now carried a shadow. Every text a question she feared to ask aloud. Jay had been relentless in his quiet protection. "You need to see for yourself," he said one evening, his dark eyes sharp with worry. "Stop guessing. Follow him. Know the truth." Lila hesitated, fear twisting inside her, but curiosity, the kind that had drawn her to Ethan in the first place, won. She waited until the school emptied, heart pounding, then trailed Ethan from a distance. His movements were careful, deliberate, like a predator aware of her gaze. He stopped at a quiet alley behind a cafe, and Lila ducked behind a dumpster, holding her breath. Ethan wasn't alone. A girl she didn't know was there, handing him an envelope. Their conversation was hushed, but Lila caught a phrase, "Make sure no one finds out." Shock and betrayal collided inside her. Ethan hadn't just been dishonest. He was hiding something dangerous. Her hands shook, and she almost dropped her phone, which she had been using to record the encounter. Before she could process further, Jay appeared, emerging silently from the shadows. "You okay?" he whispered, his tone fierce but calm. "We can get out of here before he sees us." Lila nodded, tears threatening, anger rising. The boy she had trusted, who had seemed so perfect, was a liar, and worse, he was involved in something that could hurt more than her heart. Together, they slipped away unnoticed, hearts racing. Back at her house, Lila confronted the messages and the recordings, feeling the weight of the truth. Ethan's charm, his flirtation, the thrill of new love, all of it had been a mask. He had played her, deliberately keeping secrets, drawing her in, making her trust him blindly. Jay sat beside her, offering quiet comfort. "I told you," he said softly. "Some people hide behind a smile. Some lies are bigger than you think." Lila felt anger, betrayal, fear, but also something else, clarity. She realized Jay had been a constant, the one whose loyalty was unwavering, the one who had truly seen her all along. But the danger wasn't over. Ethan's betrayal was only the beginning, and now that Lila knew the truth, she had to decide. Confront him publicly, expose him, or risk becoming part of whatever scheme he was hiding. That night, as Lila stared at the ceiling, she knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever be the same. The thrill of love had turned into a game of secrets, lies, and power. And somewhere in the darkness, Ethan's smile still hid his dangerous intentions, waiting for the moment to strike again. The betrayal cut deep, but for the first time, Lila wasn't alone. Jay was there, steady, protective, and ready to help her face whatever came next. The school auditorium was buzzing with students, the chatter echoing off the walls. It was the day of the annual talent showcase, a perfect cover for what Lila had planned. Her heart pounded as she gripped the envelope containing the recordings and messages she collected. Tonight, the truth would come out. Ethan, the white boy who had seemed flawless, was mingling with classmates, his smile bright, charming, effortless. He didn't know she had the evidence. Didn't know Jay was lurking nearby, ready to step in if things went wrong. To everyone else, he was perfect. To Lila, he was a liar and a manipulator. Taking a deep breath, Lila stepped onto the stage under the pretense of presenting a group project. She looked out at the audience, scanning faces, until her eyes locked on Ethan's. His smile faltered for a brief moment, almost imperceptibly, but it was enough. "Before we begin," Lila started, her voice shaking but growing stronger with each word, "there's something I need everyone to see." She hit play on her phone, projecting the recordings onto the big screen behind her. Ethan's secret meeting, the girl, the hushed warnings, every detail exposed to the entire school to witness. Gasps rippled through the auditorium. Ethan froze, caught off guard. His carefully constructed charm cracked, replaced by panic and anger. "Lila, wait," he began, but she held up her hand. "No," she said firmly. "It's time everyone knows the truth." From the back, Jay stepped forward, his presence solid and unwavering. "She's telling the truth," he said quietly but clearly, his gaze fixed on Ethan. "You lied, manipulated, and played with someone's heart. This ends now." The room was silent. Students whispered, some shocked, some impressed by Lila's courage. Ethan's white, polished image was shattered in an instant, revealing the deceit underneath. He tried to spin excuses, tried to charm his way out, but the evidence was undeniable. Lila's chest heaved with adrenaline and relief. The betrayal had been public, but so had her bravery. She realized something important. Truth had power, and loyalty mattered more than charm. Jay's steady presence beside her reminded her that not everyone could be fooled, and that some connections were real, honest, unbreakable. Ethan stormed out, anger and humiliation twisting his features. Behind him, whispers followed, but Lila didn't flinch. She had faced a betrayal head-on, and for the first time in weeks, she felt in control of her life again. As the auditorium cleared, Jay fell into step beside her. "You did it," he said softly. "You didn't let him win." Lila smiled, exhaustion and triumph mixing in her chest. "No," she said. "He didn't win. And I finally know who I can trust." The audience is left on the edge, wondering, will Ethan return for revenge? How will Lila and Jay's relationship evolve? And more importantly, can trust ever fully recover after betrayal like this? The stage lights dimmed, but the story wasn't over. It had only just reached its most dramatic turning point. The school grounds were quiet the next morning, a calm after the storm of yesterday's confrontation. Lila walked to the hallways with a mixture of relief and lingering tension. The betrayal of Ethan, the white boy whose charm had captivated her, still burned in her mind, but it no longer had the power to control her. She had faced him, exposed his lies, and reclaimed her strength. Beside her, Jay walked silently, his presence steady, comforting. The black boy who had always cared for her, always watched over her, had proven loyal when it mattered most. Lila realized something profound. While Ethan had been a thrilling illusion, Jay had been the constant, the one who never wavered, never hid anything, and never let her fall. They found a quiet spot on the school rooftop, the city stretching out beneath them. The sun was setting, casting golden light across their faces. Lila turned to Jay, a small, grateful smile forming. "Thank you," she said softly, "for everything. I don't think I could have done this without you." Jay shrugged, trying to hide the emotion in his eyes, but it was impossible. "You don't have to thank me," he said. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe." His voice was steady, but his gaze lingered a moment too long. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold its breath. Lila realized that amid the chaos, she had found something real, something solid in a world of deception. Their hands brushed, tentative at first, then held, as if silently agreeing that some bonds were unbreakable. But even in this moment of peace, a sense of suspense lingered. Ethan had been humiliated, yes, but his secrets had hinted at deeper layers she had yet to uncover. Could he return, more dangerous than before? Could the consequences of his lies ripple further than she imagined? Lila pushed the thought aside, focusing instead on the warmth of Jay's hand in hers, the steady rhythm of loyalty and trust. She had learned that true love wasn't about excitement or thrill. It was about honesty, safety, and standing by someone when the world tried to tear them apart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lila took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of relief and anticipation. The story of betrayal had ended, but a new story of healing, trust, and perhaps love was beginning. She looked at Jay, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled without hesitation. "We'll face whatever comes next together," she said. Jay nodded, a faint grin tugging at his lips. "Together," he agreed, and as the rooftop grew quiet, the wind carried away the echoes of yesterday, the audience is left with a lingering question. What does the future hold for Lila and Jay? And will Ethan ever return from the shadows he left behind? The storm of lies and betrayal had passed, but in its wake, a stronger bond had emerged, a connection forged in trust, courage, and the promise of something real. And in that quiet moment, Lila realized, some loves burn bright and some burn bridges, but the ones built on truth endure.